we got inside, and you have some diagrams of the detail of the inside of the craft that you wish to talk about.
Right. So that was, it was the mothership. It was like a peak of our cosmic technologies, which may sound exaggerated, but compared to human technologies at the moment, what we use, the crafts and the art and the way we could traverse space, that I think it would be almost impossible to reverse engineer at the moment by the materials and technologies available to humans. It will be very difficult to do. So you can imagine a civilization that has millions of years of their own history, a peaceful history, and their technologies are in such a state. Yet that craft had a mistake, and it virtually crashed here.
What about the details of that mistake? And you mentioned that the craft was reactivated in order for you to have your experience by a second craft.
Yeah, that's another one. It's maybe can sound slightly complicated, but basically, I think you are asking how the mothership was able to cross the space or something like that. So that's what people keep asking about the propulsion system and this and that. The spaceship was basically fueled by something like a battery. It had a sort of battery, and it enclosed say like a system that would be likened, let's say, to the processes that are happening in a star. Actually, it had like a little star inside. Basically on the principles of nuclear fusion, that are the processes that are happening in the stars, that would be powerful enough to bomb blast the solar system if they were not well isolated, and captured to a system that's creating its own gravity field, its own time-space field, basically. So the way how the mothership traveled from one point of universe very far away, thousands of light years away, to another, was, or is, that it does not fly through space. It keeps kind of cutting the space and pulling it away from its path. So I know it's a little bit difficult to explain, but you have to understand space not being empty. Space is, by the nature, is not empty. It's not a vacuum quality or something of that. It still contains plenty of energetic fields. The space in the universe is not homogeneous. It's the energy circuits, the energy fields vary from one part of universe of the another. They bend around large bodies or large powerful focal points of energy, like I don't know, kind of black holes or whatever else. There are many, and there's a variety of different time spaces throughout the universe that are very different from the field how we experience it here. So even if you are flying so very far, you cannot rely on the space quality. Even if the space seems to be empty, you cannot rely on that the speed of your craft, let's say, will be same along all the way. So basically to avoid being captured or being slowed down in a system or in a time-space field, energetic field, this kind of technology is not flying through space like lights flying through space. No, it basically cuts and pulls the space to sides and passes through it. So you would say it's creating a little wormhole of its own. And at the same time, the all the mothership and the zone around have to be completely isolated from the surroundings to protect the crew and to protect itself from being influenced by other energetic structures and systems and whatever is there. So basically, it can, by its nature, it could pass through solid matter. It does not do that usually, but it's the physics, like the realm of hyperspace physics, that can explain of how this kind of technology works. It's somewhere at the start, as we know humanly, and it's very dangerous for mankind at this point of time to experiment with large quanta of energy, even with nuclear powers and all that. Why? And the reason is that basically whatever human technologies we have on the earth compared to what we had, human technologies at this moment are they have many times a large number of errors. They have errors and they are not isolated well. That's still till now. Most of human devices we use and the wires we use and the wires between the power station and let's say our home and everything, they keep losing energy. They keep releasing energy to the air. So this way not only you're losing energy, but also you're being affected by the energy release, and then if you want to create say such a kind of technology that would permit you travel from across the universe, you cannot have this happening because you would be losing a lot of energy and the craft would be completely unreliable and all these things. So basically, in principle, human science can understand how the craft works, but the sole difference between, say, here and then is the materials and is the precision of the systems. And if the precision of the systems is great, then you can really, like, say, work miracles with the same technological principle that otherwise functions very simply, right? So it's like the difference between some kind of toy phone and your cell phone or similarly, right? So anyway, so the craft had this kind of like a battery.
Have you heard of a thing called element 115?
Yeah.
It's a heavy element.
Yeah.
Is it anything like that? Basic principle.
No, I don't think so. It's this. If you, I would never recommend the process. This kind of battery in current timeline would be started here on Earth, because it would be really in danger of blowing up the whole planet and half of the system to the air. Because it's like a one-time ignition of something like a small star. You cannot create a small star on the Earth, unless you can capture it to completely isolated system, completely
That's like
safe
a black
system.
hole, like a mini black hole.
No, like a small star.
Yeah.
And it keeps refueling itself by the fusion processes in the the energetic spectrum is powerful enough that just being enclosed to the system, it is simply keeps till it exhausts the.
Is it like some kind of torsion field? Are you familiar with torsion fields? Like a donut field of energy, a force field?
That's a little bit like an extension of what it is, but we really speak of materials that are not immediately at hand here, or only in a minimum quantums. And then this kind of like an energy center, or the battery, I would call it, of the ship. It's one source of the it's the main source of the propulsion system, and most importantly, it creates this isolated alternative time-space field. So basically, when you are inside, you experience time that is adjustable, because of course the ship, how does it work? So it had its own, like you would say, artificial intelligence, like the central computer, whatever it would be.
They talk about having a zero time reference inside this field, so that the human beings can survive. Otherwise, you have a detachment of body from soul. The living entity of no?
No, yeah, right. That would be if the technology is used wrongly, or if it's misunderstood.
Yeah. It's claimed that something like that happened with the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah.
Where the living,
it would be
the living
dangerous.
essence of the people got disjointed from the physical body, and they had a difference in perception.
Yeah, it's also why there are so many, let's say, side effects when there is like a reality 3D contact experience between some, say, space travelers and the Earth and the human world. We just discussed that yesterday with Barry, and we discussed the point why there is such a heavy military involvement, and why there is so much secrecy, the cover-up of what is the fact about these things. Now, and people like the general public, either they don't believe it, or they don't have the information, they don't have the experience, and something it's just it's just so easy. It's just so easy, like sitting somewhere on the mountain and beaming, to the sky, and it come, yeah, and this and everything. The problem is not that the beings would be, say, malevolent, or that it would be bad. No, that's not the problem. The problem is the space technologies. Because you have such a powerful technologies that create own gravity field, they create own time space. We call that alternative time space. Alternative time space is something you can, if you connect it to a very intelligent computer, you can adjust the speed of the time exactly as you need it. So that's what we would use when we would land on a place like here or anywhere else. The spaceship would simply simulate the conditions of that place from those that were like natural to us. It would simulate certain different time during the flight, so we would never experience thousands of years of flight. We would just like experience like 3-4 days of a good sleep. That's all you would get, because otherwise it would be we would think it would be inhuman for the crew. We would think it would be very hard. We were not used to experience, pain and this kind of hardship and hard work. We wanted everybody to be fine. And so, our understanding of what is, say, humane and what is not, what was slightly more delicate. Anyway, so we would want people to be well adapted and not experience hiccups and jet lags and this and that.
What about navigation? How do you navigate through space-time like that?
The spaceship would have it had its own navigation, its own like intelligent navigation. Basically, it was prepared to. It can recognize all the all the sky, map the qualities of the space. It's programmed to travel from one place to another. Program does not mean a simple way like you program a thing, go there, go back. It means it can react to all kinds of challenges and different circumstances and situations and conditions. So it's basically responsible. It was responsible for taking us to the place. That's where we went. We were on a mission. We were on a mission to a place that was still further than this Earth, this planet. And we were back home. We were on the way back home. And that is where this kind of the problem happened. So there was some kind of the ship itself, it's artificial intelligence, the motherboard, that's a central computer. It detected some kind of error in itself. Just it detected an error. And because it detected an error, it wanted to repair itself. It just realized I have to land somewhere. I have to repair the error. It does not really mean how big or how small was the error. But the problem is that once it found I have an error somewhere, it's just I want to sit down, I want to repair it, because we were not used to that. There would be mixed functions, there would be error. The technologies were composed such a way that would be completely in check and they would be like kind of perfect. Wanted to land somewhere, and this is why all this accident or disaster, whatever it was, happened. So it wanted to land somewhere to repair itself.
So it chose Earth because did Earth choose the?
Because it was near. Because basically the quarters of the space we are in now are not inhabited by other intelligent civilizations. There are parts of universe that are really inhabited. Like you could say you would have some civilization few, thousands light years away and another one, and they would know about each other and they would fly by, someone would find you. But in this zone, that was the very reason why we went to visit, why we went to see the other civilization, because they were still further. They were very far. They were very alone there, and they had communication difficulties. So we would go to see them. And on the way back, we are flying through this really vast, uninhabited you would say, young part of space, which is kind of crude, kind of raw structured. And then there is this young planet able to host primitive forms of life. And the ship needs to land somewhere, so it chooses the nearest habitable planet in thousands years around. This finds the Earth. There is no other intelligent civilization in nearby. So it landed here, and then at the moment it started it started to descend and everything. Then it found, it's in kind of a gravity loop, unexpected. It just did not expect there would be, for some reason, it did not detect the gravity loop. You have all kinds of challenges in the universe, but we just would not expect this to happen. So it damaged the system further while landing. And that's why it could not, repair itself so quickly and get us back. Otherwise, it would stay here, say, for a few days, maybe like a few hours, settle down and switch off the engines and make sure everything is all right and continue on the journey. But during the descent, during the landing, the systems, like the navigation systems, were damaged slightly, not visibly, but slightly damaged by the gravity loop. This is what happened, and that's why we went out. We would like to go out when you just land on an island, on a planet, you can go out. That we would like to go out. But anyway, and then we got to know from the ship, from the mothership, would tell us you will have to stay here for a long time. No, we
So
could
there was
do
another
nothing
ship,
about.
a much bigger ship.
No, our ship would tell us,
Yeah.
That we will have to
What
stay
do you
here.
call a long time? And
Though we were not told a long time, but see, we are here kind of till now. Right.
what is your central reason for telling us this? What do you need to do, or is there something we need to know, or you need to tell us?
Of course, I think mankind needs to. There are many important messages, couple of important messages in that, and one is completely about the origin of mankind that started from these its extraterrestrial predecessors who were intelligent beings, etc., and how it happened and how the human biology was formed.
How did that happen? How did it happen?
I think we talked about it a little bit
you
yesterday.
mentioned.
I just want to tell just this. And then another important point, as I see it, is that our real home is very far away from here, and we are certainly destined one day to go back home in one form or another. And so many people, they feel like they are at home on Earth, and not everybody does. The very nature of human spirit. In the nature of human spirit, there is a longing. I think many of us, we share the longing for not only for stars, but for kind of heaven, for kind of paradise. We remember the world from before, even subconsciously. Unless people have an experience, most of them, they do not remember what has happened at that time. But they share the subconscious memory, the awareness. All the mankind shares this kind of awareness. Where did they come from? And in my opinion, they need to know, and the truth belongs to mankind, to their hands, and should be explored that way. Humans should not think they are the next evolution stage of a monkey, because it's not true. And they should not think they were created by some gods or some more capable aliens, creatures, or whoever. No, they have their own precious line of descent where they truly belong, and their intelligence and their, their ethical sense are the very reason, you see, why there are so many religions on the earth. Because no, if you travel through the space, you would rarely, I think you would rarely find such a religious society as there is on earth, and such a chaotic society with so many beliefs, and so many ideas and hopes about what is the truth, and how is God, and where is God, and who has created us, and so many questions. This is just a reflection of the depths of the human spirit. The human spirit is that, I say spirit in a metaphorical sense, because it's also in the biology, the genes and everything. It's a reflection of these, of these beings who were also, they were immortal, and they were so very good and perfect and so very advanced beings.
Is there any place on Earth, or are there any locations where we can find evidence of this? Or you mentioned the craft was deep underground. Can this be found, or?
I believe that the spaceship may have sunk underground in the area, because unless it flew away in much later times, because what I have experienced was like the time in the beginning. But unless it flew away in much later times, it most probably sunk underground, very, very deep, and then there were many geological changes and moves and so on, but it would still be there, and it's not, it's in a kind of hibernation mode. It's not completely active, but it's not inactive either. It's still kind of working on itself. So
and are there still the beings inside? Are they?
I don't think there are any beings inside. I'm not completely sure, because in the first phase we all went out, and then also I remember later on, people even they started to take things out of the craft. Like parts. They started to, because they were like on strangers, stranded on empty island. We did not have any special.
So they have used a Stargate. How do they get access inside the craft then?
Oh, who? No. I mean, they started to take things. Like you would take your chair out. To use it, because Earth was empty. There was just nature, plants, trees, and this and that. So years later in time, they try to help themselves. So they try to take some things and gadgets out, even though they were of no use to them, because the humans, as they became that time, they were very, they were not they were just like in humans. They were not able to function on the previous level. But there is no point, to judging what they did, because it was so very difficult for them to survive.
How did they become humans? How did this process actually happen? Can you describe that? How did the process suddenly happen? Did it happen over? What sort of period of time did it happen?
It happened in many ways. I think we spoke about that part before.
We didn't really get into how the biological density of the human body was created, or what made that happen.
Yeah, I think we did. It just it happened by the gravity field, because they stepped to a gravity field we were not accustomed to. We were not adjusted